Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we're going to be talking about the classic constructed meta after the Nationals weekend we just had, and also a bit of a meta report of how I did during the weekend. So first, this is a breakdown of the national championships. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this. Uh, there was a lot of Briar. That's kind of been known throughout the weekend. We'll look more into that. And then we had Bravo, Prism, Katsu, Dash, Chain, Bolton, Viserai, Reinar, Oldham, and then other, right? So the main decks from this weekend seem to basically be Runeblade, specifically Briar and Chain, and then Bravo. Those seemed like the most popular decks. We also saw some Lexi that kind of broke through in some Oldhim, as those ice decks really prey on the Briar, who never wants to pay resources. So Frostbite and Channel Lake Frigid really prey on that. So this was the meta after day one of nationals, right? There's about 400 plus people there. I brought Bravo. I know I did a list showing off the Briar deck I was playing with, but I just didn't like the consistency, and I also just hadn't practiced enough, so I decided to go with Bravo. And I also had no practice with draft at the time, so I ended up going 4-4 on day one of nationals. I went 1-2 in draft in the 3 rounds of it, and I went 3-2 in the 5 rounds of classic constructed. Wasn't super happy with my performance. Just didn't think my deck was ready for the Briars, and so I dropped after day one. This is the deck I had brought. It's kind of just like normal mid-range Bravo. This is the deck I had brought to day one. There's not a ton special here. I guess the 3 blue lead the charges are the spiciest thing. My Prism matchup was like really, really insanely good, and I was only really worried about Dash. But also, it wasn't ready to block enough for Briar, so um, just decided to drop after that and play in the Calling, which I already had my ticket for. We're gonna look at this real quick too. This was the top 8 for nationals. So you can see there was 5 Briars, 2 chains. There was 5 Briars, 2 chains, and 1 Lexi. Right. So no Welcome to Wraith or Arcane Rising heroes in the U.S. Nationals. Just Monarch and Tales of Aria with 7 Rune Blades and 1 Ranger. The top 4 was 4 Rune Blades, and it was won by the Runeblade Briar. It was a pretty disappointing top 8, obviously, in terms of hero representation. But I can't find an actual list, but I'm sure they will have it at some point. But we did have a really nice breakdown for the top 8 of the Calling, from what I understand. I think we might have had like 4 Briars, but it was actually won by an Oldhim. I know a Bravo that made it as well, so that's at least 2 Guardians that were in there. The Bravo is a really amazing player named Quinn that I lost to at some point in the Calling. It was just great. So I know we had an Oldhim, I know we had a Bravo, and we had quite a few Briars as well, obviously. So the Calling meta was a bit more diverse, but yeah, the Nationals meta, people just weren't ready for Briar. But I think after day one of Nationals, a lot of people dropped out and made some overnight changes to their deck. I did the same here. So this is the deck I made. Ended up going 5-1-1 on day one of the Calling. So I've won my first 5 rounds, lost round 6, and then tied round 7. So I was pretty comfortable. I think I was like 32nd place going into day 2. And the changes I made, you can see, are obviously Ram's Head. To be honest, I think I went to control. This deck is not what I'm on exactly right now. I think you need to be on Rampart and Titan's Fist and Debrier as sideboard, and against the Runeblade heroes. This is really good. But I also was on like the Forge for War package and Last Ditch Effort. I was, I think, going to control. I don't think you need Forge for War. And I also don't think you need these Stamp Authorities, or I don't think you need these Last Ditch Efforts. I think the shields and the Titan's Fist are enough to get you through it, as long as you're running, enough of the D-Reacts, the Sigils, and stuff. I personally like Blessing of Deliverance as well. So this was the deck I took. I ended up losing 2 rounds in day 2 to Evergreen Briar. I don't think I was playing right into it. And I also don't think I built my deck to be able to pressure it properly. So the Briar decks, once you get them to fatigue, a lot of them will loop to red evergreens and just try to deal 8 damage every single turn, which is pretty strong considering you have to block most of that. And so I would just die to infinitely looping evergreens. And I just, like I said, I wasn't playing around it properly, and I also just hadn't built the deck to be able to pivot well enough in the end. My end game was like trying to do these last ditch efforts, which isn't enough to stop that. So excuse me. This is the deck I think Bravo should be on now. I think the Rampart and the Titan's Fist are still important into aggro matchups, but I don't think you need to go as as control as I was. So we still have the blessings, all the reacts. We have the sigils. I took out the CNCs. I just don't think they're that necessary, and they didn't feel amazing. Um, and I added in these 3 righteous cleansings and added back in the 3 yellow disables here over the Forge for War and the Command and Conquer. What this does is the righteous cleansing is actually really key into the anti-fatigue tech, right? Because it's a yellow, it's easier to pitch earlier, right? So like it's hard to pitch a crippling crush earlier in the game when you're blocking because it pitches pretty poorly. But a yellow can pitch for like an arcane damage and a shield activation. So righteous cleansing pitches more reliably early in the game, and then once you get it later in the game, you can actually have a surge pop and then just double blue into a righteous cleansing, and that can get rid of their evergreen that's in their deck, or just make them block out and not be able to keep their evergreen. So I really like the righteous cleansing there. Same with the yellow disables. Really, it's enough pressure where they have to block it, or it can just take their evergreen from arsenal, or whatever they're trying to loop, whatever they're trying to do at the end. A lot of them are also trying to set up a double sting of sorcery into triple ball lightning as a end game that does like 15 or 14, I think, arcane damage. It does a lot of arcane damage. And so righteous cleansing stops that as well, obviously, if you can get it to hit, or they just have to block it. So righteous cleansing is actually great into the Briar endgame when they're trying to stack their deck at the end to try to stop you. It just makes them either give you their whole hand that they were setting up with, or it hits and crushes, and you take the cards that they were stacking, right? So Righteous Cleansing is really good there. I wish I was on it. I think I would have won those Evergreen games and made it to top 8, because I went 2-2 on out of the 4 rounds on day 2, and if I had gone 4-0, I would have top 8'd. And I just lost to Evergreen twice, which was really frustrating. It wasn't my opponent's fault. Both of those opponents were really nice people, honestly. I just didn't have the deck built right. The deck was not built properly to play into the Evergreens, and I wasn't playing properly. I was kind of tilted the first time I lost to the Evergreen loop, thinking I had nothing I could do about it. But I think these yellow disables and righteous cleansings help a lot. So all that to say, this is the list I'd be on right now. It's what I am on, and I think it is the best deck in the meta right now. I don't think it loses to Briar, and I think it still has enough tech to be able to beat Prism and Dash, and I don't think this deck has a bad matchup. Uh, I'm sure it has some not amazing matchups. Like I said, Prism and Dash aren't like ideal, but I think this deck is super strong, and I do think it's the best position deck right now. Basically, it's just mid range Bravo with the shield, the little baby hammer, and double null rune, which really beats up on Briar. So yeah, this is the deck I'd be on right now. I think this is a deck that can just win any CC event as long as you know how to pitch stack properly with Bravo and you can play well. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna move on. Obviously, Briar was the breakout deck. A lot of people weren't prepared for it. People adapted really quickly. Like I was saying, how I changed my deck a lot between Nationals Friday and the calling on Saturday. A lot of people adapted as well. You can, like we have here, this Oldham deck got first place at the calling Orlando. Uh, it just beats up really hard on the Briar decks. You got the Channel Lake Frigid. You've got Winter's Whale. They just can't keep up with the Frostbite. Um, and yeah, so people adapted really quickly, and I don't think Briar is the strongest deck. I think it is oppressive in a way that your deck has to have a game plan for it. And I think it takes a lot of the decks out of the meta. So I do think they might still make changes because the Briar deck is so oppressive. but I don't think it's unbeatable, right? There's a lot of decks that still have a good matchup into the Briar deck, and I think that the meta will continue adapting. The Briars will adapt to beat these control, shield, frostbite decks, and then those decks will adapt in turn. Um, yeah, so I think the meta's healthy-ish. I think Rune Blades are too strong, obviously. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know if it's gonna be a Rosetta Thorn changes, if it's gonna be changes to Briar itself. Um, but Rune Blades putting up 7 out of the top 8 at the U.S. Nationals is not a great look for the game. But I do think it was just the field just wasn't ready for him, right? The field just wasn't ready. I think it will adapt, and I think the meta will evolve. I don't think we have any major classic constructed events coming up, so I don't know if we're going to see those evolutions firsthand. Um, but I do think it will continue to adapt. So yeah, I will have the Bravo list. I think is the best in the meta right now. Linked below. I think the top decks are Bravo is the best deck. I think Briar is probably still the second best deck. And then I think Oldham's quite good as well since he has that good Briar matchup. And then maybe like Chain and Lexi are also quite good. Chain is just still pretty powerful. Lexi is another deck that can beat the Rune Blades. It's basically 3 decks that can beat Rune Blades and 2 strong Rune Blade decks are the decks I think are the strongest right now. You can even throw Viserai in there and you say the Rune Blades are the best decks, and then the 3 decks that beat the Rune Blades, which are the 2 Ice decks in Bravo. I think those are the strongest decks. It just is what it is right now. I think the game's still super fun and in a good place, but maybe Rune Blades need to be powered down a little. I'm excited to see what the supplemental set brings with new cards for every class. I'll probably do a video of speculation about that, and I think I might also do another tier list video soon. I think I'll work on a video for draft because we have skirmish season coming up. I know I have a local draft skirmish 2 Sundays from now on the 21st. And we're going to be practicing in my local area, so I might do a little draft tutorial. Even though, like I said, I'm not amazing on it, I am practicing. So, yeah. So thanks for watching. Still pretty happy with myself. It was my first major event, and I got what did I put? 45th. I got 45th out of 500 people for my first major event. So still happy with how I did. Content. A lot of my friends did great too. I know someone that got 9th place, someone that got 18th place. It was a great weekend. I had a really fun time. I'm hopefully going to go to more callings next year. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what content you guys watch. If you were at the calling, let me know how you did. And let me know what you think of the